Do you have peperomia plants that look something like this? A little droopy, maybe a little bit yellow, or perhaps your African violets are constantly battling root rot. Keeping plants with fine, fragile root systems happy can be tough in the best of times. They're sensitive to overwatering, prone to root rot, and require just the right balance of moisture and aeration to thrive. There is a solution, a way to make their care practically foolproof so you can stop stressing and start enjoying your beautiful plants. That solution provides the perfect balance of moisture and aeration for delicate roots. No more soggy soil, no more root rot, no more guessing when to water. I've taken inspiration from the popular Swedish plant guy's pumice method and adapted it to be even easier using readily available mineral blend. As I show you how I convert my plant, I will be answering some commonly asked questions about this method, so look out for those. For this method, you're going to need your precious fragile rooted plant. Today, I'm going to be using these two African violets. They have a very fragile roots. A bag of semi-hydroponic mineral blend. Today, I'm using a mineral blend from a company called Habit. You can use any other mineral blend that you have at your disposal, whether it's Pon, DIY Pon, pumice only, anything that is not potting mix. A suitable pot. It's great to use clear pots so you can actually have an unobstructed view of the root system. I'm using these two pots that my plants actually came in. Unfortunately for me, my pots actually aren't clear, but I wanted to maintain this little self-watering pot that these plants came in, so I will be using a dark nursery pot, but if you can find a clear one, use that. I'm also going to need a wick. These are microfiber cloths and they're going to be used to draw up the water or nutrient solution that's going to be living within this reservoir up to the substrate that's living in my pot, and that will in turn diffuse that water and nutrient to the plant's roots. The first thing we're going to do is to carefully remove the plant from its current pot. And what we want to do is gently loosen the soil around the edges. And the easy way to do that is just to squeeze the sides of the pot, and you will begin to see that there's a loosening of the potting mix that's held within the pot. Right, so I then turn it around and just whoops, that takes that plant out of the pot, and there we have it. That is my plant there, and as you can see, that plant is moving around a fair little bit. It just goes to show how it's living in some very, very airy, that potting mix is very, very airy. So that's my plant there, and I'll do the same thing to the other one, just very, very gently squeezing the sides, and you can see the plant is starting to emerge, and just simply turn it around. I'm holding the plant between my thumb and my fingers, and that holds it quite securely, and boom, away it goes. Oh, this one is really good because you can actually see the roots on that plant. Look at those roots. They are tiny, tiny, and really very, very fragile. The usual way of transitioning a plant from soil to leca, the direct way to do it, is to take the plant out of the soil, go and give those roots a wash, because at that point we want to get rid of all the organic matter. But we're not doing that today because these roots are very, very, very fragile, and the chances of the plant actually not transitioning very well into semi-hydro are very, very high. So all we're going to do is just take that out of the pot for now. Can I use a pot without a wick? Absolutely. You can use any pot without a wick for semi-hydroponics. You will then be using what is called the submerged method, where your nursery pot that contains the plant is sat at the base of an outer cache pot that contains the nutrient solution. The key is to ensure the roots are not sitting in the nutrient solution in the first few weeks of the transfer, by making sure that the level of the nutrients is below the level of the roots in the nursery pot. So the next step is to carefully remove the excess soil from the root ball. So you can use your fingers or a soft brush, and you're just gently brushing away any loose soil. You're being very, very gentle with this process, very patient, because as we have said and have seen, those roots are very, very fragile, so we don't want to damage any of those. So as you know, this is pretty much what I have ended up with as I've just been gently brushing off that organic matter. And yeah, that's what that one looks like. And I'll do the next one now. So just grabbing my plant, and you can see the organic matter that's, not attached to the roots just comes off really, really easily. So the idea is not to forcefully take them off, just whatever's coming off, let that come off. So yeah, so that's that one, and I'll leave that one there. A common question asked is, can I remove all the soil? Ideally, we want to remove as much of the soil as possible to prevent contamination, decomposition from the organic matter in the soil, causing issues in the semi-hydroponic system. However, with the fragile roots, it's okay to leave a little bit behind. In this case, a lot behind. The mineral blend will help aerate the remaining soil and minimize any problems. As the plant grows, the remaining soil or potting mix will eventually be washed away during flushing, and all we need to do is keep adding more mineral blend, and eventually that's all that's going to be left. Why not remove all the soil? Some plants, especially those with very fine or delicate root systems, can experience stress if all the soil is removed. Leaving a small amount of soil or potting mix helps cushion the roots during the transition and reduces the risk of transplant shock. There is also a very high chance of damaging the already fragile roots in our quest to remove all the soil. Right, now that I've got my plants out of my pots, I'm going to actually go and wash these pots, because these are the pots I'm going to put the plants back in. And the only reason I'm doing that is because they sit very, very well in this cache pot. It's a set, so I want to keep that. So I'm going to go and wash these, and I will be right back. My pots are clean, but before we press ahead, let's talk a little bit about how you go about choosing a pot for your plant. So you want to select a pot that's slightly larger than the root ball, allowing room for growth. Now, you're probably going to need to be making a few assumptions about what the size of the root ball here is. I like to go a pot which is a size bigger than what the plant currently sits in. So if I wasn't wanting to stick to these pots, I'd have probably gone a size up instead of these, but this will have to do for now because, as I said to you before, I really want my pots to sit in that, because that looks absolutely fantastic. The next phase of this project is I'm going to thread my wicks through this pot, and I'm not using the wicks that came with the pot, the little microfiber rope, because those are dirty at the moment and I didn't have enough time to clean them. So I decided not to use them. I'm just using my normal microfiber cloth. So just thread that through the pot, and that looks good. That's how much will be in there. And when I pick that up, that'll go like so. All right, so I put my wick in my other pot. There we go. Hang on. Oh, can be a little bit fiddly. There we go. There we go. Why self-watering systems? Self-watering pots with wicks are a fantastic option for semi-hydroponics, especially for busy plant parents or those prone to overwatering. They hold a reservoir of water and nutrients at the bottom of the pot, and the wick draws moisture up to the roots as needed, mimicking the natural way plants absorb water in their environment. The plant only gets what it needs when it needs it. All you have to do is make sure there's water or nutrients in the reservoir. So the next stage in this process is we're going to we're going to put some of that mineral blend in these pots. Now, this is the mineral blend that I'm using. So this is the blend that comes in this bag. This particular blend is made up of a few things. Some of them are Kanuma, you've got some pumice in there, you've got some green zeolite, vermiculite, and so on. So your blend might be made up of different things. This blend, I gave a little bit of a wash before I actually started using it because they tend to be a little bit dusty. So just follow the instructions that are provided for the blend that you are using. So that is there. I've put some of that blend in there, and all I do is lift up that wick a little bit so it is there. Why use a mineral blend or pumice instead of leca? Leca is a fantastic option for semi-hydroponics, and most of my plants are growing in leca. But for plants with very delicate roots, I find that a mineral blend like this one I'm using today, or pon, or indeed using pumice, can be a little bit gentler. Their finer texture provides support and helps prevent root damage during the transition from soil. For plants that are quite thirsty, mineral blends or pon is a better option as they tend to hold on to moisture better than leca, allowing the roots to stay more moist than they would in leca. A good example of this is my maidenhair fern. I had this plant living in leca when I first moved it to semi-hydroponics. It was going okay, but then the fronds kept crisping up and drying up on me, so I decided to move it to a mineral blend, and since then, she's now thriving. Same story with my Oxalis triangularis. Both are plants with very fine root systems that are doing so much better in a mineral blend than they ever did in soil or in leca clay balls. Now, this is a really crucial stage. I'm going to grab my plant. Come here, Baba. That is my plant. See, that root ball is still very much intact, and all I do is place it on top of my substrate. I'm going to push this one away so we can just work on one plant at a time. So that is sitting right on top of that substrate. And then we're going to fill the substrate around the edges of the plant. So this can be a little bit finicky depending on the kind of plant that you've got. I'm working with an African violet, and I know African violet leaves are very, very delicate. So I can't be too rough with them, otherwise I'm going to end up with broken leaves. So I'm just going to do this really, really carefully, and I'm just turning the plant around and filling the sides with my substrate. There we go. Turn it around again until I get all the sides filled up with that substrate. One more. And you can see, how this plant really, and it's quite full in that pot. So this is why you actually would want to go a size higher than the pot that the plant is currently living in. And so once you do that, I'm just giving that a gentle squeeze, and that helps settle the substrate. I'm just tapping that, and by doing that, I've actually got a little bit more space to work with, and I can put more substrate in. Okay, there we go. It is a little bit fiddly and definitely needs more of a delicate touch than when you're working with leca clay balls using the direct method with a plant that's not quite as delicate. So I'm really liking how that's looking. That looks really good. That plant is all set. Now let us put the other plant in. So again, like we did with the last plant, just ever so gently. This is the one that you can see those roots. Just look at those. They're so fine and so fragile. And I'll just plonk that right in the middle. That just goes right there, and I'll start to fill the sides with my substrate. Being so gentle. If I can be done with this repotting without breaking a leaf, I will consider that a serious win, because African violet leaves are just the most delicate leaves that you have ever come across. So you will notice for my pots, I did make these additional ventilation holes. Those ventilation holes weren't there when I first purchased these pots. I put them in there because I do like my plants to be breathing a lot more than they would if they didn't have the ventilation holes. You might be wondering, why use a mineral blend or pumice instead of a regular potting soil? These Inorganic growing media offer a host of benefits, especially for delicate rooted plants. Superior drainage and aeration. Their porous structure allows for excellent drainage and airflow around the roots, preventing root rot and promoting healthy growth. Consistent moisture. They hold on to just the right amount of moisture, reducing the risk of both overwatering and underwatering. No compaction. Unlike soil or potting mix, mineral blends don't compact over time, ensuring your plants have consistent access to oxygen and nutrients. Pest and disease resistance. Inorganic media are less prone to harboring pests and diseases, giving your plants a healthier start. Bear in mind, I said less prone, not never. Longevity. These growing media last so much longer than soil, saving you money and reducing waste in the long run. They are also reusable. All you need to do is sterilize them before use with another plant. So whether you choose pumice, a mineral blend like PON, or any other semi-hydroponic medium, you're giving your fragile rooted plants the best possible chance to thrive. These are my cash pots. These pots were actually clear at the bottom when I purchased these pots, but I actually spray painted them. I put some spray paint on there and they're now nice and white and opaque. And that's because when I fill these up with my nutrient solution, I don't want the light hitting that nutrient solution, because if it does, then algae is going to start growing in there, and that is not going to be a good thing. So that is how my plants will sit in their little pots. They look beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So now it's time to water your newly potted plant. I'm going to pour water very, very gently over the mineral blend, and that is going to trickle through into the bottom and go into my reservoir. And I say water, it might not be water. So in my case, I actually have my Growth Technology Clonix Clone solution in this pot because I want to reactivate those roots. I want to get those roots going again because, of course, I have disturbed the root system. Of course, my Clonix Clone solution does have some nutrients in there, so those feed the plant as well. This is a really important point to note because depending on what kind of mineral substrate you're using, if, for example, you're using PON that's got added nutrients in there, they do advise that you don't fertilize your plants until after 6 months. After that slow release fertilizer is spent, that's when they recommend that you fertilize your plant. Now, I know that my mineral blend does not have any such thing in there. There's no fertilizers in there. So I'm quite all right to use my Clonix Clone solution to water that. How do I fertilize in semi-hydro? Fertilizing is key in semi-hydroponics as the mineral blend itself may not provide nutrients. Some mineral blends like Lechuzapon do have added nutrients. Use a dilute, balanced liquid fertilizer that's formulated for semi-hydroponics every time you top up or put fresh nutrient solution in the reservoir. If you're using Lechuzapon, it does have slow-release fertilizer in its makeup, and they advise to not use any additional fertilizer for your plant for the first 6 months. So make sure you know what's in your mineral blend. How do I know when to water? Using a self-watering pot or having a reservoir, if using the submerged method, will take the guesswork of when you need to water away. All you need to do is make sure there's water or nutrient solution in the reservoir, and the plant will do the rest. How does this make plant care easier? This reduced watering frequency and the removal of the mental load around when to water your plants is one of the major benefits of semi-hydroponics. It's perfect for busy plant parents or those who tend to over or underwater. So while semi-hydroponics is a fantastic way to grow healthy plants, it's important to be aware of the potential challenges and how to address them. Algae. Algae sometimes appears on the surface of the growing medium, especially in bright conditions. It's usually harmless but can be unsightly. To prevent algae, avoid over-fertilizing and ensure that your pot isn't sitting in direct sunlight. And if algae does appear, simply scoop it off the surface or consider adding a layer of decorative pebbles on top of your mineral blend. Mineral buildup. Over time, minerals from your fertilizers or from the water can accumulate on the pot rim or on the surface of the growing medium. This can create a crusty white residue. To prevent this, periodically flush the system by pouring water, plenty of clean water, through the pot until it runs out the bottom. If your plant isn't thriving, it might be experiencing a nutrient deficiency. Yellowing leaves, stunted growth, or other unusual symptoms can be signs of this. Make sure you're using a balanced fertilizer and check the electrical conductivity of your nutrient solution if you so choose, to make sure that it's within the recommended range for your plant. Pests. While some pests are less common in semi-hydroponics, pests can still occasionally find their way to your plants. Keep an eye out for signs of pests such as tiny insects or webbing. If you spot any, address them promptly with pest control or insecticide also. For those who want more precise control over their plant's nutrient intake, an EC meter can be a game changer. An EC, or electrical conductivity meter, measures the electrical conductivity of your water or nutrient solution. Basically, it tells you how many dissolved salts or solids or nutrients are present. So why is that important? Different plants have different nutrient needs. Too little and your plant will struggle to grow. Too much and you risk fertilizer burn. An EC meter takes the guesswork out of fertilizing, allowing you to tailor the nutrient strength to each plant's specific requirements. How to use it? It's simple. Just dip the meter into your prepared nutrient solution and it'll give you a reading. You can then compare this reading to recommended EC ranges for your specific plant type. We'll dive deeper into the specifics of using an EC meter and interpreting its readings in a future video. But for now, know that it's a valuable tool for anyone serious about maximizing their plant's health and growth in semi-hydroponics. Don't let these potential challenges deter you. Semi-hydroponics is a rewarding and enjoyable way to grow beautiful, healthy plants. Now that your plants are enjoying the benefits of their new semi-hydroponic homes, this journey is just beginning. You need to understand the long-term care they require in this very unique environment. Watch this next video to uncover the secrets to maintaining your semi-hydroponic setup and ensuring your plants continue to thrive.